Hey, you guys, welcome back to Southern Latitudes. I'm Robin and I garden in East Central Florida. I garden on a suburban half-acre lot, and this is still providing our family with plenty of food. And we mostly garden on the 1/4 acre, and the other 1/4 acre has our house and our pool and a little bit of grass and so forth, some sheds and stuff we have. But anyhow, today my mind is on the fall gardening season, and many people are turning over their garden beds right now. And if you're like me, you've let July, August, and September get a little away from you with the weeds. Well, how do I turn over a bed? Well, in this case, I have a lot of sweet potato vines, but I also have mostly Asiatic Dayflower and some other various things, not too much. So, one of the best ways I can think of, like if this was the bed I was turning over today, I have drip irrigation, so I would first pull that up. And the next thing I would do is probably take a mower in here and in the bulk of it, and try to get it down as good as I can. Pick the sweet potatoes. Of course, the roselle is still going, although it doesn't look great. It didn't like this location. It seems to be a lot of things don't like this location. But anyhow, pick the sweet potatoes, and then because it is so filled with Asiatic dayflower, which is a creeping weed, and a lot of what we do, like when I go to pull it, at each node and segment, it tends to break. It's not a weed you could just grab and like the whole thing pulls out real easily. So a lot of times in this case, you'll see me turn over North Garden beds with a tiller because that's the best way I know to just totally loosen up all that network of vines. And then I rake it all out. And so that ends up being a really good way for me, um, a quick way to get this bed cleaned out. This is the other side of North Garden, and that's how I treated this side before I put the compost down and seeded it or transplanted into it. So, yes, you'll still see some stuff poking through, but it's much easier to pull one or two loose things than it is to try to get a huge network of weeds, if that is your particular weed that you deal with. Okay, right now I'm standing in front of South Garden, which is also now my market garden for a lot of my lettuce and kales and other small things like that. I have dandelion in here right now. It also has a flower bed up front by the street for the neighbors to see and enjoy, especially in fall as they're walking their dogs or taking their own power walks. They have something beautiful to look at. But I have let a little bit of the Asiatic dayflower grab hold in some of these walkways, but the walkways have a lot of loose, barky type of mulch, and so that is much easier to pull out. Plus, as you can see, it has the black plastic on it or ground cover, and so it didn't take me very long, just a couple short 15-minute segments of coming out here while the dog's doing his thing and just pulling the weeds that happen to have gone through the holes or around the sides of the walkways. I usually start with the tallest ones first, pick those. That way I can kind of see what I'm dealing with, and then kind of work my way to whatever's easiest. Now, you know, I'm going to pull all this up and I'm going to end up putting the mushroom compost underneath it and then laying the black plastic back down and then transplanting into it as this week goes. I do have up here a little bit of dandelions, so I just took the tops off, cleaned them, dehydrated them, going to make stuff out of them, medicine out of them. And I'm not taking the roots this year. I'm just going to let these grow Perhaps we'll double the size of it. So next year, I didn't really think of this when I created this patch of dandelion, but I'll probably double it. So next year I can actually take dandelion root. And I'll probably move this way with my patch because I don't actually want to grow anything that's more like a perennial towards the center of the bed. I'd rather keep it on the end so when I pull up the black plastic, I can just still amend and then lay it back down easily. Having something that's more like a perennial in here is going to challenge it. It's not impossible, but it's going to challenge me. Over here, I still have some weeds, and so I will just do my best to hand pick what I can. I may throw the tiller in there a little bit to break up because I think I don't know. Not all of it is Asiatic Dayflower. It's actually going to be pretty easy, I think, to pull up, but I may break it up. There seems to be, I don't know, some sort of toxicity over there in the corner where the irrigation um, fanning spray comes from. I never grow anything really well there, except for maybe I've had beans there. Some of it's because of the shade, but I don't know what was there before. When this was a vacant lot, this tended to be a lot of a dumping ground for people, and we found carpets, we found hoses, we found, who knows? There was before we lived in this house, a guy with a boat as well, but I don't know if he was dumping oil here. I don't know what he was dumping, and so, I may end up putting more sunflowers or something up there, trying to pull toxins out of the ground. And then I think I'm just going to take down this cattle panel that was for, what did we have on there? We had cucumbers in the spring up there. But anyhow, yeah, so that's how I'm going to treat South Garden. Now let's go to the other beds. So I'm now in front of my garden that I call Salsa Garden. And one thing you can do is if you just don't want to deal with your garden in the summer, some people like sweet potatoes and black-eyed peas and other cowpeas to plants. But if that's not your thing, you want to just focus on, the beach or vacations or company, that's fine too. The best thing you can do is put down a silage tarp or any kind of dark tarp. I have found that like light color, like this queen, still gives the weeds enough light for photosynthesis. So the darker, the better. And we did have that up on this corner of salsa. But if I'm not careful, I'm going to lose. I pulled the tarp like about 2, 3 weeks ago, and so the weeds are already coming back full force. It's very difficult in this garden. I deal a lot with this particular weed with this seedy type of top, and it's very prolific in here. And even though I try to keep after it, it's still my number one weed in this garden. But as you can see, it's really easy to pull out. So when I go to tackle this half of the garden, um, I don't know if it'll be this week or next week, but I will pull out these whatever type of weeds first, and then my other number two weed in this garden is this little type of other one. And so these are super easy to pull out, and they do make you feel like you're making a lot of progress. And then for all this little stuff, I just kind of think of it kind of like as a ground cover, and I mulch it under. And excuse me, I cultivate it under, and then I will mulch on top of it. And in this section, this is going to be for peas and cucumbers. And so the cattle panels will come back. Well, I'll put down the mushroom compost first, and then I'll put the cattle panels back in, and from there we'll go on with planting. But that's how I'm going to turn over this particular bed. And also I have drip irrigation for this one with the drip tape. So that usually is very nice. I target water because in the from October to about the middle of May is our dry season, and so the weeds aren't quite as bad through the winter because it's less light, but also less water here in Florida. So that's something I always take note of in each garden. Now I can't do that with the market garden because it's a sprayer, but that's intentional because the lettuce really likes that, and it kind of cleans off the leaves from the environmental dust and dirt. So you can do underground irrigation, but I just chose not. There's a lot of rows, and I have to put down a lot of irrigation lines, and so it's easy. I put a sprayer on, and boom, we're done. Like 20 minutes, once or twice a day, and my market garden is watered. Here it's a little different. I don't even think cucumbers love water. Probably peas do too. But I just bought a irrigation timer for this garden and the house garden. And so I'll just set those up to target water the actual rows of vegetables that I'm planting this year. Welcome to House Garden. It is the garden that is closest to my house, obviously, or maybe not as obvious to you, but I can see the house right behind you. So in this garden, we kept it covered the last maybe 12 months with black ground fabric. Actually, it's more like a plastic than a fabric. If you have one that is lighter weight and rips easily, don't buy those. Get the heavy duty version. I think DeWitt or something like that might make it. I'll have to look that up. But um, this garden, now it's still hot, so the weeds are still pretty plentiful, and it's still raining a lot. So as you can see, everything's growing in, filling in nice. The beans have come in. The tomatoes have quadrupled in size. The beans are going nuts in the back there. The climbing lima beans are growing nuts back there. Even the squash over here on this side. I hope you can see it. This I have two different types of squash, and then I've got bunching cucumbers that hill up. I have climbing cucumbers that are going to be in salsa garden. And then a little bit of carrots right here just to fill in just the small space that I didn't have anything else for. But in here, I decided to pull up the ground fabric because it is going to be winter and we are going to be target watering in here. And so it's very easy when I wanted to turn over this bed that I could just pull up the black plastic and boom, lay the mulch right down. I didn't till or cultivate it. It was very easy, and I was hoping to decrease my seed bank of my weed seed bank in here, but it doesn't matter. Like in August, September, there's always a wind that blows in some certain weeds, and I don't know where they come from, but I definitely had that happen in this garden. So I'm going to have to take my hoe and clean up around certain things. I can hand pick. I did hand pick some, but quite honestly, if I'm not feeling good or short for time, just bringing out that hoe, either a flat one or a V-shaped one, is all I need to really get the majority of the weeds in here. And so this is going to be, I'm really going to enjoy this garden this season. It's not that I minded the black ground cover because it did what it was supposed to do. We were going to have a busy uh, summer of projects. In the winter before, we had projects on the inside of the house. We've had a lot of company come and stay with us. And so I just didn't want my focus to be pulling the weeds. I'm hoping this winter that I'll have more time for that. I kind of miss not having volunteer plants. Sometimes that's fun as well. So I just decided to let it go naked, if you will, with just the mushroom compost on top. And then you can mulch it too if you want. All right, right behind me here is Smoothie Garden, and it originally got named that because it housed blueberries, mulberries, and pineapple in it. And it's kind of, and it still has, oh, and mango now. The blueberries don't work very well for me, and we have some beautiful you-pick blueberry farms not far. And so I have given up on blueberries actually, but I have the mangoes, the pineapples, and the mulberries are still here. And so we're just going to keep the name Smoothie Garden, but mostly it's a flower garden, like in the front half at least, and it's doing great for pollinators as well. And so what I will do when I want to turn over this particular bed, and you might have flower beds at your house as well, and I don't have to keep the row straight. There's no irrigation here, And to be honest with you, I don't really do much in the way of composting it or mulching it. Although if I have extra mushroom compost, I'll probably throw a layer on here. There's been times I've put leaves as a type of a mulch as well. It just depends on what's available and handy. So as you can see, this one has completely outgrown or overgrown itself between the Biden's alba. I have a blue victory salvia, blue salvia. I have the tropical sage or tropical salvia. I have a little black-eyed Susan vine in there intermixed. I've tried my best to keep it out of there, but it's still back in there. Um, it's traveling in other places. It's traveling up the pine too, if you can see that in the background there. So essentially, this one just I have to go through it the old-fashioned way, just hand pulling weed by weed very specifically because there's some really good things in here that I want to keep. And it's probably time my blue salvia is actually collapsed. The bigger one in the back is collapsed. And so I guess I probably need to give that a fall prune and let it come back a little bit fresher. That is also perennial. The the red type of salvia or sage is also perennial. There's a lot of perennials in here, as a matter of fact. I have vinca or periwinkle in hot pink that I've tried my best to eradicate from this garden, but it keeps coming back. And I kind of like the color with the other colors. I've got the blue, red, pink, and yellow in here, and then the white from the wild Biden's album, which I do use medicinally. And I'll pull it out and say sometimes I even give it to the chickens. It's just, a little snack. They really love it I guess they recognize the medicinal value of it as well. So, and then, there's arrow root vine. There's all sorts of vines going on here. I do need to give the mulberry a good prune so I can maybe have Christmas mulberries. Um, but that's what I'm going to end up doing in here. I don't know when. Flowers are a little bit not less priority. They're pretty important in anybody's garden. But I try to get my vegetables in first, and then I focus on flowers. These guys are doing their job as pollinating plants, whether I weed them or not. It's just that they look unattractive, and eventually I'll turn over this bed probably in October. So, you guys, with that said, I hope you enjoyed this little quick overview of how I'm overturning each one of these gardens. I'm not actually recording every bit of all my turnovers. I'll do a couple of the beds, but times five, it's not really that exciting for you guys. Oh, and I also showed the other garden up there by the pool where I had a lot of grass come in, and I had to use the shovel and turn it over. That was all hand pulling weeds as well. But so I hope you enjoyed this overview of how I'm working each garden behind the scenes and in front of the camera. And I hope you guys have a blessed week, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. God bless. See you later. Bye.